Hey guys, Gore here. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I wanted to take a look at the upcoming changes to Squad in the soon-to-release 2.12 update. At a glance, this update is only bringing in a few new things to the game, but upon closer inspection, some of these changes are going to have huge implications on how games are played out. Before we do get started, if you enjoy my content over here on YouTube, consider checking out the live stream sometimes where I stream a ton of Squad amongst other games. And if you're watching this within a few hours of release, I'm live right now. Come on by for a bit or just to say hello. Now, let's get into things. So for this video, I'm going to cover the upcoming changes and what I see as the ascending order of importance, with the last thing being the most important. To start us out, we have a few fantastic gameplay and quality of life changes that are going to be warmly welcomed to the game. The first of which is the update to the buddy boost system. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, in the past, you could have your buddy crouch in front of a high wall that would be otherwise impossible to scale, and then mantle on top of your buddy to be able to reach out and climb over the high wall. This has always been a favorite of mine for getting infantry inside of a compound from an area that the enemy completely did not expect. Well, up until this update, the act of actually mantling on top of another player was quite finicky, and more than half the time it would just force you off them the second you climbed up. So now with the new system, we should see a vastly better, if not perfect maybe, success rate for mantling on top of friendlies to get over high walls. I highly encourage you guys to try this more post-update as an alternate to just running through the doorway of a compound. The other, and in my opinion, fantastic gameplay change coming in 2.12 is an overhaul to the way fall damage is calculated. Previously, if you were at full health, you could fall off a roof of like a 3-story building and be just fine. And inversely, if you were at low health, you could drop down from a 5-foot fence and die. Which I've done plenty of times and lost a few hairs along the way. Well, now your fall damage will be calculated as a percentage of your remaining health. For example, and this isn't the exact number, but if you drop from 10 feet up, you'll take 20% damage. So if you are at 100% health, you'll now be at 80. But if you are at 10% health, you'll now be at 8. I absolutely love this change, since it always felt like after a revive, you had to tiptoe around the map and be sure not to fall a few feet to your death until you could get to a medic. Additionally, along with this percentage change is also a change to the max height you can fall and survive. Currently, on full health, you can yeet yourself off like a 3 or 4-story building and survive, but after the update, anything above 2 stories, regardless of your total health, will be fatal. Moving on to the next biggest change we have coming to the squad in the update is the new Shadows overhaul and the new and improved fan favorite maps, Yeho and Gordok. Starting with the Shadows overhaul, the idea behind it is to both improve the overall visual fidelity of the game and also bring those running on either low or high settings onto an even playing field. Currently, like many other large-scale games, you can crank down your graphical settings and gain a tactical advantage over other players that choose to run the game on higher settings. Along with these shadow changes, we're also going to see an improvement to the visibility of muzzle flashes to make players easier to spot, since the lighting and foliage changes had made the process much more difficult. I do think once this update drops, I'm going to cover identifying enemy fire again, as these changes are going to mix things up a bit. So as much as I love brand new content like factions and maps, this Shadows overhaul is a huge stepping stone in the right direction of bringing Squad up to 2021. With the new Gordok and Yeho maps, the landscape doesn't look completely bland like it had in the past. New textures are being used to give the map a more lively look, and the new Shadows update brings out just how good these overhauled maps can look. Speaking of these two maps, I think some of the changes coming to both have gone under people's radar a bit. Yes, we're getting a visually better looking map, but what has me incredibly excited is the fact that certain areas around the map that I had always viewed as weak or lacking have been bolstered. I'm going to be throwing up a bunch of footage in the background showing the before and after of both areas that have been improved and the areas that were previously non-existent. So with years and years of gameplay on many of the maps in the game, the dev team did a fantastic job taking into account some of the meta and the strengths and weaknesses of different POIs around the map. Another couple POIs that I'd like to take a glance at is Gastown and River Fortification on Gordok. These are areas that the flags often go to, but until this point, they were nothing more than a single structure with little to no real cover, making them an absolute nightmare to try to defend. Well, it's not like these areas are now vast towns, but some thought and effort was put into bolstering the POIs to make gameplay and fights in said area far better. These changes also present an interesting opportunity to the game. Since several POIs are being either added or overhauled, I see this as the perfect opportunity for these new POIs to be added with the intention of them being possible flags. Currently, it is far too easy to know exactly where the flags are going, with the lane system being somewhat at fault, but also the fact that these enormous maps have so few possible areas that the flags can go. I don't know about y'all, but I'm getting a little burnt out fighting over the same exact areas all the time, and some fresh areas would be a very welcome addition in my opinion. I don't know what the plan is moving forward, but if we see other squad maps getting the same treatment and these little tweaks that are being made to improve the overall flow of games, I have to say, I'm super excited for the future of Squad. All right, so now that we've talked about the good, it's time to talk about the bad of the new update. And I know this is where some people may disagree with me, so all I ask is you hear everything I have to say before you say anything. The last thing coming in the 2.12 update is scaling capture speed of flags. Meaning, instead of flags being captured at the same rate regardless of players, teams will now be able to speed up the process. Currently, you need 3 more players on a flag than your enemies have to capture it, and it takes a total of 4 minutes to fully neutralize and then capture the flag. With the scaling changes, if you now have 4 more than the enemy, a 1.1 times multiplier will be applied. With 5 more, you get a 1.2 times, with 6, you get a 1.3 times, and it isn't fully explained, but the number can go as high as 1.5 times, and based off the previous increments, we can assume that you would need 8 more people on the flag to get this 1.5 times multiplier. With these multipliers, a full flag capture that would have taken 4 minutes can now take you just over 2.5 minutes. I do completely see the good in this change. You guys know from my live commentaries that I fucking hate when people disregard their defense flag, and this scaling change will punish those teams that choose to leave little to no assets on defense. But the exact opposite argument can be made, and this is the one I stand by. Players already don't want to defend. Some have the attention span of a goldfish, and if they don't have action constantly in their face, they'll shift W until they can find some. Now players will be rewarded for not defending and just Zerg rushing to every single flag with their entire team, since they'll be able to cap faster than their enemies. The only thing in the current game that helps counteract this Zerg playstyle is the locked capture speed of flags. Meaning, if our team is at risk of being rolled, I can take my small squad to get on their defense point and either capture it first or force the double neutral. Obviously, yes, this multiplier goes both ways, and you can look at it as my small squad would cap faster, but I think the implication of this change is going to be more and more people disregarding their defense or leaving it poorly manned, since all they need to do is hold off an attack for a minute or two while the rest of the team goes charging onto the attack. I don't know, maybe this could be a good change, but from where I'm standing, it seems like the exact opposite to what we need right now in Squad. In my opinion, we need more reasons to encourage players to slow down and think for a second about their actions, but maybe that's just wishful thinking. I want to know what you guys have to think of these upcoming changes to Squad, and if you agree or disagree with the points that I brought up. I do hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, consider leaving it a like, as it helps me out immensely. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, I'm out.